morning. Welcome to Genesis. So glad that you guys are here with us today. If this is your first time worshiping with us at Genesis, man, we are so excited and honored that you guys chose to worship with us today. And we hope that your experiences here is awesome, and we would love for you guys to come back next week. As I say every time, I'm super excited and I'm always humbled whenever Pastor Brian asks me to speak on a Sunday morning. I'm glad that he trusts me enough to be able to do this, and hopefully today I can pass on a little bit of wisdom that I have come to know in my 19 years on this earth, just a little bit. See, first service laughed too, and I just don't, but whatever. I mean, I see where I stand. But really, so glad that I get to speak, and hopefully I can give you guys a little bit of wisdom today as we continue this series. But before we do that, let's just go ahead and pray real quick. God, we come to you again this morning, God, and we just thank you for who you are. God, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come here, God, for the next few moments and just leave our stresses and things that are bringing us down outside of the door, God, and we can just focus on you, God, and we can worship you, and we can bring glory to your name. And God, this morning, I just ask that you speak through me. God, give me the words that you would have me to say, that I can bring about some change through you, God, and that ultimately you will change lives and help people to leave here better than what they came. And we just love you, and we thank you for all that you do, and we ask this in your name. Amen. As I said, we're going to continue our little bit of wisdom series today. And as I was trying to prepare and kind of figure out the route that I wanted to go, I was trying to think of people that have been in my life that have shared some wisdom or given me some pieces of advice that I have just been able to take. And of course, the first person that came to my mind without a doubt was my dad. My dad was one of the greatest people ever. I don't have one bad memory with my dad. I mean, I'm sure we got into it a couple times or we had our moments, but overall, those things ultimately don't matter. I mean, the memories I have with my dad are huge. And the advice and the wisdom that I took from him were life-changing. And I mean, it wasn't even really the advice that he gave me or things like that, things that he told me that I could repeat. Some I probably am not going to repeat to you, but either way, good wisdom and good advice. But really, it was just who he was as a person really stuck out and stuck with me. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I say a few years ago, we were rebuilding a Datsun engine, so clearly it wasn't a few years ago. But I just remember being in the garage, and it was cold, and we were just doing that together, and by doing it together, I mean, he was doing it, and he was telling me, like, what to do and where to turn, and he was having me help him a little bit. So just getting to spend time with my dad and seeing his characteristics and his qualities were things that just stuck out to me and things that I'll just be able to carry with forever. And I always say and tell Sarah that if I can just be half of the dad to my girls that my dad was to me, then man, they're just going to be super lucky, hopefully. So that's the kind of route that I wanted to go with. Today we're going to talk about a little dad wisdom, and hopefully I can give you guys some points to help grow wisdom a little bit. And I was able to have a dad who gave me great wisdom and great advice, but I think there might have been somebody who got a little advice like what we're going to see here in this video.
I thought I'd share some of my favorite dadvice tweets from you guys. Here we go. This first one's from @XYuppie. He says, "My dad always tells me, don't use your turn signal. It's no one else's business where you're going." No. The police might disagree with that, yeah. This one's from @BAlmeida98. She says, "At the airport, my dad said, put one shoe in each suitcase, so if it gets stolen, they can't wear your shoes."
He's thinking.
If it gets stolen, I can't wear it either.
I can't wear it either.
This one's from @MikeRuss39. He says, "After the first time I got drunk, my dad told me to be careful. He said, alcoholism doesn't run in this family, it gallops."
That's good advice.
That's
good advice.
That's actually pretty good. I never heard that one.
Whoa, Nelly.
Yeah.
Meet Captain Morgan.
This one is @StunnaHaze. She says, "My dad told me that if I ever wanted to nap during class to make it look like I'm praying so my teacher couldn't get mad."
Hey, oh, you're praying. Never mind. You're praying.
Yeah, B squared, B squared. This one's from @HuertaMD. He says, "My dad said, when painting a room, keep the windows shut. You can get a real buzz going."
Sounds good, man.
Here's another one from ex-yuppie. He says, my dad told me when you get pulled over and the cop asks you to say the alphabet, just say the alphabet. Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
It's a great strategy. You want to go to jail?
Yeah.
All right. This one's from Eric Conga. He says, my dad always says, you better go to church every Sunday. We need somebody in this family to go to heaven. Not very optimistic. Not very optimistic. This last one's from Matt. Lil Hannah S. She says, I asked my dad if I look fat in my bathing suit at the beach. He said, keep drinking and you won't care. There you have it. Those are our Tonight Show hashtags. We'll check out more of our favorites.
Advice from some dads out there. I mean, probably not really, but hopefully I'm going to give you guys slightly better advice than things that my dad said and things that I learned from my dad. So this morning in Proverbs 4:7-8, it says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, though it costs all you have, get understanding. Cherish her, and she will honor you. So right off the bat, the writer of Proverbs is just telling us, get wisdom. At whatever cost, chase after her and get wisdom, because when you do, it will bring you understanding. Cherish her, and she will honor you. Solomon, who was one of the greatest kings ever, was the writer of most of the Proverbs. He wrote Ecclesiastes, and he obviously wrote the Song of Solomon. Well, God said that he would basically grant him one wish, that Solomon could ask for one thing, and whatever it was, God would give it to him. Well, Solomon, being decently wise already, chose wisdom. Of all the things that Solomon could have chose to ask God, he asked God for wisdom, and God granted him his wish and gave him wisdom. In Proverbs 13:20, it says, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. You know, we talk about this in youth on Wednesday nights a lot, how important it is to pick your friends. Right? Because the people that you're around influence you either negatively or positively. So it's super important to be selective with the people that are around you. My mom is here with her best friend this morning, so let me tell you, you really need to be selective about your friends. Okay? Youth, you guys listen and hear me up. Show me who your friends are, and I will show you your future. Show me who your friends are, and I will show you your future. Who you hang around with, the people that you choose to put in your life, are more than likely the type of people that you're going to grow up to be, right? And at some point during our life, people choose a path. And that's either a good path or a bad path. And just because somebody has been your friend for a long amount of time doesn't mean that they have to stay a close, good friend, because you need to surround yourself with wise people. Right? Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. So this morning we're going to look at 3 tips to help us gain some wisdom and learn how to be a little wiser. So our first point this morning is number 1, be trustworthy in the small things. Be trustworthy in the small things. I'm sure we've all heard this quote, whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter where you are. Do the best of your ability. Don't work as if you're working for man, but do it as if you're doing everything for the glory of God. You know, a lot of times we just read the Bible and we hear the Bible and we think that the Bible is this story that's about us, right? Like it's this roadmap that helps us know how to live, and it really does. There's obviously great wisdom and advice that we can take from the Bible, but ultimately, the Bible is this beautiful story of redemption, and every story in the Bible really does one thing, and that is to bring glory to God. No matter what the story is, no matter the situation, God, the glory is given to God, and that is what we are called to do as Christ followers, as Christians, is to bring glory to God, and we do that by being trustworthy in the small things. Mother Teresa said, be in the small things. Too often I feel like we don't like where we are. We don't like this job. It doesn't pay enough. This isn't what I wanted to do, whatever situation we may be in. We look past our current small assignments because we think they're too trivial, right? They're not important to us. We don't think it matters. And we look past where we are for the bigger, what we think are more important assignments. But the problem is that we don't often get those bigger assignments because we're drowning and we're not taking care of the small things that we're currently in. If you look in Matthew 25, it's the story of the rich man who goes out of town, and he gives each one of his servants talents. To one he gives 5, to one he gives 2, and to the third he gives 1 talent. And as the rich man is gone, each of them do different things with their talents. The one who has 5 doubles it, gets 10. The one who has 2 doubles it, gets 4. The one who is given 1 talent. When the rich man comes back, he sees what they've done out, and he basically cursed them and said, "You're lazy. You could have at least put my money in." 5:23, he said, his master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So the question for us this morning is, what are you doing with the talents that you have? You know, it's easy for us to sit back and think that we just don't really have any talents, right? Like, there's just not a whole lot that I can bring to the table. There's no way that I could just get in front of a room and speak. There's no way that I could get up there and sing. I mean, outside of singing in the shower or alone in my car, nobody wants to hear me sing, so we just don't think we have these talents. But that could not be further from the truth. God has given each and every one of us a special gift in talent, and it's up to us to figure out what to do and how to use that talent so we can bring glory to God. I mean, worship was phenomenal this morning. I love those songs. And what's awesome is, as I sit in the back of the room, there are 3 of them up here playing key roles that are sophomores in high school. And it's amazing to see people at that age get up and use the talents that they've been given. There's no way you would have got me a sophomore year in high school to get up here on this stage. Like, I maybe would have done offering or something like that, but no way would I have been able to do this. But they're using those talents to bring glory to God. And we can do the same things. We just have to figure out what those talents are and how we can use them. Be conscientious in the small things, and you will be prepared to excel in the big things. When we're conscious about the small things that we're given, it's in those times that's preparing us for the bigger assignments and when big things come our way. Every week in staff, we get together and we go over the previous week, or we start preparing for big events that are happening. Easter was a month ago. And we broke 400 people for the first time in the history of Genesis, which is awesome. And that's a huge testament to you guys inviting and then preparing your teams and volunteering your time. But it's exactly what we have to do, right? Is we have to prepare for those big events so that when 400 people walk in the door, we're ready and we are prepared to greet them and to ready for people. We walk in and we're trying to order and there's nobody there to take our order. It takes forever for the waitress to bring us our drink, whatever it is. And more than likely that leaves a bad taste. Conscious in the small things so that when those big things come around, we're ready to go. We prepared, we talked to our teams. Our dream team leaders did a phenomenal job preparing their teams. So when the 426, I think, people came here on Easter, it went flawlessly. It looked great. We were able to introduce new people to God and hopefully change their lives. And when they left, it was changed because we were conscious about the small things, the fine details we looked at. And that's what we have to do. There was a great coach from the University of Alabama, and I hate so much that I'm going to use a quote from an Alabama coach, but I'm going to anyway. Paul Bear Bryant said, "It is not the will to win, but the will to prepare to win that makes the difference," right? We all want to win. If you've played sports or you're competitive at all, that's the point, right? Like, people say it's fun, but let's get real. It's all about winning, right? It's not fun when you lose. So we're all competitive and we all want to win, but it's not the will to win that matters. It's our preparation for the game that makes the difference of whether we win or not. You look at the New England Patriots, who I also can't stand, but they just win constantly and consistently. And it's because Coach Belichick looks at every aspect of the game and gets everyone prepared for that moment in that game, which is why they are consistent in winning. Be conscious in the small things. And we've all heard this, I think: bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. A couple weeks ago, I was able to go to Washington, D.C. For a class for work, and it was pretty cool. The FAA building is right across the street from the Washington Monument, so it was pretty cool to get to make that walk every day because you don't get those views here in Oklahoma. Well, actually, I took a shuttle from the hotel, then took 2 trains to get down there to make a short walk, so that was a little crazy, and those trains are confusing. But anyway, it was fun, and we're there, and on the very last day of class, we were able to meet with all the executive directors and all the deputy directors of aviation safety. So that's the department that I'm in within the FAA, aviation safety. And you know what's funny is that all week long we're talking about aviation safety. And so for like the last 2 days, we're just going over plane wrecks, right? Like plane crashes and what caused it and all this stuff. And then what do I have to do? I had to get on a plane to fly home. The most nerve-wracking flight of my life. Like I almost just Ubered home. I was like, no, I'm not ready to get on this plane. But anyway, so all the executive directors came and we were able to ask them questions about our organization and where things were going. And one question that kept coming up was, what do I have to do to prepare, like if I want to get a job here in D.C. or I want to be an executive director within a department of aviation safety, what do I have to do? And every single executive and deputy director, I think there were like 8 to 10 of them there, almost all of them were consistent with their answer, and they basically said, bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. Let people know and see the work that you're doing, that it matters, right? That you care about the job that you're in, and then you will be prepared when those opportunities come to take on big things. Matthew 5:16 says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Our job is to let our light shine so that we will show our good deeds to others, but more importantly, that we will be able to glorify God in heaven. And we glorify God by blooming where we're planted, by doing what we're supposed to do, by focusing on the small things, even as if they're huge, important things. Do the small things. 2006, I went to boot camp, a phenomenal, glorious 8 weeks. And the point of boot camp, if you don't know, is to basically just destroy the person that you are. They break you down so they can build you back up into what the military needs. And so one of those things that they focused on a lot was cleanliness. And I remember one day we left the barracks and we came back from a class or lunch or them beating us up, whatever it was that they felt like doing at that particular moment. We came back and the bathroom was destroyed. There's toothpaste all over the mirrors, there's toilet paper all over the ground, water splashed everywhere. I mean, I hope it was water, but if the bathroom was a mess. Okay, and so we spent the next few hours cleaning up the bathroom from top to bottom, getting it where you could eat off the floor. I mean, that's what we did. And so over the next 8 weeks, that became to get ingrained in my head, right? So every time I went into the restroom, I made sure that it was clean when I was done. I wiped off the mirrors. I wiped off the faucet. I picked up trash that might have been laying around, or I at least put mine in the trash, whatever it was. That's what I did. And in 8 weeks, you develop a habit, and I still find myself doing those same things, that same thing. So we go to the Warren Theater all the time, right? And before Avengers, it's a 3-hour movie. Of course, we're going to hit up the restroom. So I go to the restroom, and I find myself doing the same thing. I wash my hands, and then I'm wiping off the mirror in front of me, and I've wiped down a couple faucets near me, and I've picked up trash. And believe me, I've gotten some weird looks from people who are just staring at me like, I don't think he works here. Why are you wiping this down? But it's a mess. People are messy. Pick it up, right? So those deeds that I'm doing are sticking out in people's heads just a little bit, whether good or bad. And we need to let the deeds that we're doing shine before others to bring glory to God. And so wisdom's reward for being trustworthy in the small things is this: people will empower and invest in you. When we do the small things, when we're trustworthy in the small things, opportunities will come and people will choose to empower and invest in us because they see that we are conscientious about the small things and we are working as hard as we can to take care of and be invested in those small things. Point number 2 this morning about a little bit of wisdom is this: be a second miler. Be a second miler. I hate running. So thinking about running a second mile when I already probably ran a mile I didn't want to run to begin with, it gives me a headache, and I just don't like it at all. But we need to be a second miler. Matthew 5:41 says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go extra and go with them 2 miles. Right? We feel like we've become a culture where people just want to hit the bare minimum. Like, what do I have to do just to do my job? Right? Like, if this is what expected of me, then that's what I'm going to do. I don't really want to go above and beyond. That's not in my job description. They don't pay me enough for that. We've all heard that saying, it's good enough for government work. Right? But we need to go the extra mile. Roger Staubach, a famous quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, a Naval Academy graduate, said there are no traffic jams along that extra mile. Very few people choose to go that extra mile, but we need to be people that choose to go that extra mile because that is what God calls us to do. Find out what's expected of you and give more. If this is where your baseline is, if this is what you need to be hitting every day, we as Christ followers, to display wisdom, to let our light shine before others, we need to be up here consistently. It's so easy for us just to be tired, to not want to give maximum effort, to take a day off, to slacken what we're doing. But we need to go above and beyond because that is what God calls us to do, right? What we don't understand is God gave his life for us. He went above and beyond for us, and the least we could do is to do the same. Famous author John Maxwell, he says, no one stands in line for average. No one stands in line for average. There are commercials out on TV now that I love, and I think they're AT&T commercials. But they're basically like asking people questions. They're like, yeah, I'm okay at it. And there's one in particular that's got a mom and a son, and they're getting on a ride at a fair or a carnival. And as he's like strapping them in, they were like, so this ride is safe, right? And the guy is next to him, and he's like, yeah, I put this together myself last night. And they were like, awesome, so you're good, right? And he said, well, I'm okay. And they grabbed their stuff and like got off the ride real quick. That is the exact reason why you will never catch me on a ride at the fair. Like, I'll hold the purses and the kids' stuffed animals and whatever they need. I'll eat all day long, but I'm not getting on one of those rides, right? But no one stands in line for average. Don't be average. What is it that you're doing? What is it that you're bringing that is going to attract people to God, right? Are you average or are we going above and beyond? You know, God calls us to be salt and light. Salt, as we know, brings flavor to things that are bland, to things that just don't really stand out too much. And light obviously is there to cast out darkness, right? To light up a room. And so that's what we're called to be, salt and light. And it's hard to do that if we are average. There's a story in Genesis 25 about Abraham and Isaac, and it's time for Abraham to find a wife for Isaac. And so Abraham tells his servant, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go and you're going to travel for a little while, and you're going to take some animals with you, and you're going to stop for water at some point. And when a young lady comes out and she chooses to give you water, and she also chooses to water the animals that are with you, that's the one. That's the one for Isaac. You get her and you bring her back. So the servant grabs 10 camels. Those are the animals that he decides to take. 10 camels, and they travel across the desert for a while, and he stops, and he gets to a well, and a young lady comes out and sees him and offers him water. And so she gives him water, and then she stops, and she sees the 10 camels that he has with her. And does anybody in here know how much water a camel drinks? Well, I'm going to tell you in case you didn't know. One thirsty camel will drink 50 gallons of water a minute. So if my math is correct, and I'm a psychology major, so it's a possibility my math is not correct. But if my math is correct, 10 camels at 50 gallons of water a minute is 500 gallons of water that she chose to water. And she didn't get to just grab a hose and walk it out there and turn it on and fill up a trough. She had to go to a well. She had a bucket, and she walked back and forth, filling up this bucket of water to water 10 camels, 500 gallons. You know, we will never know what God will do when we choose to go the extra mile. Rebecca didn't have to water those camels. She really didn't even have to give the servant water, but she did. She went above and beyond what she was called to do, and her life was forever changed because of the decision she made to go the extra mile. When we go the extra mile, amazing things can happen. God can work wonders, but it's up to us to choose to go that extra mile. And wisdom's reward for going or being a second miler is this: you will never lack greater opportunities. You will never lack greater opportunities if you choose to go the extra mile. Being trustworthy in the small things, going the extra step and above and beyond. Opportunities and people will seek you out because you are doing what you have to do with the talents that you are given. Opportunities will seek you out when you're looking for opportunities to do more. So here's what we can do. We can choose to always be the one to give more, do more, and be more. We're tired, we're busy, but there's always something that we can do if we just choose to be the one to do more and to be a second miler. The third point this morning in your notes is this, and it's one of my favorites, and I think it's super important, is this: be honorable. Just plain and simple, be honorable. Honor is a thing that seems to be fleeting in our society today. You get on social media, and man, we just do not honor other people or just honor things in general. We blast people who have a different political opinion, or blast people because we have differing views on what bills are trying to be passed, or we blast each other because we don't like your sporting preferences or whatever it is. Honor is something that just isn't there anymore. And there's a few ways that we can become honorable. And the first one, and most important, is we honor God. And we honor God by aligning our lives with his word, right? Obedience brings honor to God, right? For those of you that have kids, if you've ever been somewhere and there are kids misbehaving like crazy, but yours are the kids that are well-behaved, that are quiet, that are behaving like they should, and somebody comes up and points that out, your kids are so well-behaved. Man, that makes you just feel so good. It makes you feel as a parent that you're doing something right. It brings honor to you when your kids obey. And it's the same thing for us. When we obey God, it brings honor to God. In 1 Samuel chapter 2, we read a story of the prophet Eli and his two sons. And basically, the prophet had two sons, and they were just wicked people. They grew up, did things that they weren't supposed to do, were constantly blaspheming against God, talking bad about God, being disrespectful with their family, and just not doing things that they were supposed to do. And in 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 30, it says, "Therefore the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that members of your family would minister before me forever. But now the Lord declares, far be it from me. Those who honor me, I will honor, but those who despise me will be disdained." I don't know about you, but I do not want to hear those words come out from God, that if I despise him, he's going to disdain me. I want God to look at me with pride and to know that I honor him so that he will honor me. 1 John 5:3 says this, "In fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands." Plain and simple, this is love for God. You love God, keep his commands. If you know what his commands are this morning, I suggest you begin to honor those commands. If you don't know what his commands are, I would suggest finding out what those are, because that is love for God, keeping his command. And when we align every aspect of our life to God, that's what we're doing. We're honoring him. And that means we align our job with God, right? We align our finances, we align our marriage, we align every relationship that we have to God, because it brings honor to him. Another way that we become honorables by honoring others. Super hard to do, like I said, because sometimes we just don't get along with others. Some of us aren't people. We just don't like people. So it's hard to honor others, right? And there was a quote I heard a while ago, and I don't remember who said it, but it stuck out to me. And it basically says, we don't honor other people because they're honorable. We honor other people because we are honorable. A lot of people just don't deserve, honestly, our respect, our honor, because some of them are just terrible people. But guess what? You don't respect and honor somebody because they deserve it. You respect and honor people because we are honorable people. We choose to honor others. You know, I may or may not have a little bit of road rage occasionally. And sometimes that comes out. And I've got a 7-year-old little girl, Parker's my best friend, my little mini-me. More often than not, wherever I go, she goes. Right? And a lot of times she gets mad at me because she thinks she could just come to work with me every day, but she's still got school or whatever. But she's with me all the time. So for whatever reason, when I'm driving along, if somebody cuts me off, doesn't use a turn signal like the dad suggested in the video, isn't getting out of the left lane, whatever it is, occasionally I'll just yell out, "Idiots," or something. Not much worse than that, but we'll just say idiots for now. So I just say idiot, right? Well, Parker, my 7-year-old, as smart as she is, the wisdom that she has, super quick. "Dad, we do not call people idiots." And I'm like, oh, crap. I forgot you were with me, right? So I'm like, "Oh, babe, you're totally right. I'm sorry. We don't call people idiots. I need to honor them." And you know what's crazy is, in her own way, she's exactly right, because we have no idea what that person who's in the left lane that just won't get out of our way is going through. They may be in a daze driving to a job that's paying for a loved one's cancer treatment. They may be driving to a job to help pay for the funeral of a loved one that they just lost. We don't know their circumstance, but we're so quick in our own anger or whatever it is to dishonor others. But we can choose to be honorable because we are honorable. And the last thing that we can do to honor or to be honorable is this: honor your commitments. That's something else too. We all, I feel like I'm guilty of it. Like we make plans and we say we're going to do things, but in reality, one of two things want to happen. Like, please cancel it so I don't have to go. Or if something better comes along, I'm not going to go to your thing. Like if somebody gives me free Thunder tickets, I love you guys, but I'm not going to be here, right? But we need to honor our commitments. Proverbs 3:3-4 says, let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will find favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. Now, it's important to me that I have a good name in the sight of men, but even more importantly, I want to have a good name in the sight of God. When God hears my name, I want him to be proud of me. I want him to be proud of who I've become and the fact that I honor other people. And one of the ways we could do that by honoring our commitments is finishing what you start. Parker, again, 7-year-old, decided she wanted to play soccer. I'm all for it. I love sports. So I was down with it. We signed her up. And Parker figured out very quickly that running and doing it outside in cold weather was not her bag. Like, she hated it. She just stood there, and she didn't understand that if you ran a lot, you would warm up. It wouldn't be that cold. Well, she didn't want to run. So this was her effort. And then she just watched the ball roll. Like, that was it, right? But she wanted to quit, but I told her, babe, we finish what we start, right? Like, you've made a commitment to the coach, to the team, to yourself. You're going to finish what you start. So we took her every Saturday in the cold weather. She hated it, but she finished it. And as soon as it was over, got rid of her cleats, got rid of the ball, whatever it is, like she was done, not doing it again. But she finished what she started. It's important that we do the same thing. We are judged not by what we start, but by what we finish. Nobody really cares what we start, right? But it's when we finish it, do things really matter? We're judged by what we finish. I love the Olympics. The Summer Olympics. The Winter Olympics aren't for me. I don't do cold weather. But love the Summer Olympics. It's my dream to go. And in fact, we had tickets to the 2012 Summer Olympics in London, and we were going to go, and we had been saving. I was going to go to a basketball game and a couple swimming events, because that's all my wife could stomach. And then we were going to travel around. We found out we were pregnant, so hardest thing ever was to let those tickets go. But anyway, we did. But I love the Olympics. Well, in 1968 Olympics, there was a marathon runner by the name of Stephen Akhwari from Tanzania. Like I said, he was a marathon runner. The race started, and at some point during the race, he got caught up in the legs of other runners, and he tripped and fell and hit the ground really hard. Almost broke his ankle, bloodied his leg up really bad. It was a pretty bad fall that he took. Medics came and tried to pull him off and to get him to quit, and he pushed him off, and he said no. And so at the end of the marathon race, when the runners come back into the stadium, they had to make 2 more laps around that giant Olympic stadium. So 2 hours after the last runner made his 2 laps, 2 hours, Stephen Akhwari came into the stadium. And he made his last 2 laps dragging his leg, because that's all he could do at this point. He made his 2 laps. He crossed the finish line and just collapsed from being tired, from pain, and he just fell down. And reporters came up to him and they were like, why didn't you quit? Like, you're hurt. What made you go on 2 hours longer? And his quote was, my people did not send me all this way to start the race. My people sent me all this way to finish the race. He knew that his people sent him there not to start it, because it doesn't really matter what you start, but he came there to finish the race. And Stephen Akhwari did whatever he had to do, dragging a bloodied, injured leg to the finish line to finish that race. Obviously, he was last. Obviously, he had no chance to win a medal, but he knew the importance of finishing what he started. We're honorable because we choose to finish what we start. So wisdom's reward for being honorable is this: sow honor, reap honor. We all know that you reap what you sow, so when you choose to sow honor, reaping honor is what we get. Let's be known as people who finish the race. Proverbs 3:21-22 says, my son, do not let wisdom and understanding out of your sight. Preserve sound judgment and discretion. They will be life for you, an ornament to grace around your neck. Do not let wisdom and understanding out of your sight. Wisdom is such a huge thing for us, especially as Christ followers. We need to get as much wisdom as we can to reach people for God and to glorify his name. And we do that by getting wisdom. So here's what we need to do, church family. Pursue wisdom with all your heart. Plain and simple, pursue wisdom with all your heart. Be trustworthy in the small things. It's the secret to you being faithful in the big things. Always, always give more than is expected. And above all, be honorable, and God will honor you. Let's pray. God, we come to you again, and God, and we just thank you so much for who you are. God, we thank you that you loved us enough to give your son, God, and we thank you so much that you're there just to continue to give us more wisdom, God, so that we will gain understanding on how to reach people for you, how to impact your community, God, and how to love those around us. God, and we thank you for first loving us, that while we were still sinners, you died for us. God, we just thank you so much for investing in us day in and day out, even when we don't deserve it. God, and we love you and we thank you for who you are. Amen. Here at Genesis, each week we practice coming to the table, or communion, as some of you may know it as. So here in a few minutes, we're going to do that. If you're a guest with us today, you can choose to partake with us or not. Really, whatever you're most comfortable with, that's what we want you to do. But here